Okay. Hi, Multimedia 10. I'm going to give you guys some help with the roller vector assignment. So to begin, I'm just going to read the instructions for this assignment. You're going to go through the process of creating a vector graphic based off of drawing one that you do using the Pumpkins themed Rolladoodle sheet. You can email yourself a photo of the drawing or send a picture of it to me through Teams and download it. So this tutorial is kind of assuming that you've already completed your drawing and have uploaded it to your computer. Okay, so that's where I'm starting with this tutorial. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Adobe Illustrator. Okay. While that's loading, you can see here on my screen that I have my sketch already uploaded to the computer. Okay, so I'm just going to create a new document. It doesn't really matter what you put in here as long as you have enough space to build your pumpkin. So this will be fine, 11 inches wide by 8.5 tall. Sure, that's like a standard piece of paper on its side. Okay. Then I want to make sure that my workspace is set to tracing, so that's good. I'm just gonna these boxes. Okay. And also please make sure that you have the advanced toolbar selected. Okay, that'll make sure that you're seeing all the tools available in Illustrator. Okay, so we also can go down to window layers. Okay, and this is how you can find your layers panel. So right now I have one layer, it's blank. I'm going to rename it. You can either, the best way to rename is just to double click on the text and then background. Okay. On the background layer is where I'm going to put my image. So there's many ways to bring an image into Illustrator. My preference is I just go to the folder where I saved it. So in this case, it's on my desktop right here, Pumpkin Sketch. I'm going to click, and while holding the mouse, drag and release and let go of the click. And I have just dropped it onto my canvas. Okay. Now, if I hold Shift while I resize, it'll make sure that it resizes with the same proportions. Okay. Now, it's a little blurry, and that's okay, because this isn't the image that this isn't going to be part of the end image. It's just I'm tracing with it. So I'm going to lock the layer so I can't accidentally move this. And I'm going to create a new layer by pressing Create New Layer. Okay. So typically when you're painting or creating artwork that has layers, you start with kind of what's going to be at the back. So I'm going to start with the body of the pumpkin because on top of the body, we're going to add all the facial features. Okay, good. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to grab my pen tool so I can kind of pen tool my way around the overall shape of this pumpkin. If you don't like what, you can always press Control-Z to go back a step if you feel like you made a mistake. Okay, so I am just clicking, and then while holding the mouse down, I am dragging, and I can kind of move my mouse around, and you can see the bend adjust. And I let go of the mouse. Click, and hold the mouse and drag to make the bend. And I'm going to click to complete. So right now I've just created my first shape. You can see that has a white fill and a black outline or a black stroke. Okay. I want to obviously change that because I don't want a white pumpkin, I want an orange pumpkin. So I double click on the color over here and I'm going to slide this up to the orange values, hues I should say, and I'm going to pick a nice Halloween looking orange. Good. Now my stroke, I'm just going to turn it off for now, but eventually I'm going to add a stroke. So we've got the body. Now I can't see the tracing underneath, right, because this is on top. So I'm just going to temporarily hide so I can't see, and I'm going to make a new layer, and let's do the stem next, the top part here. Same thing, I'm going to grab my pen tool. Now instead of making curves, I don't need to click and hold down. I just click on the corners that I want to drop these little anchor points. Click, click. So I've just made my stem shape. I'm going to grab my little black arrow and just kind of move it. I can also use my keys, the up, down, left, right arrow to kind of nudge it a little bit. So I like that placement. I think that's good. Now, obviously, I don't want my stem to be orange. I personally like just a black and white pumpkin, but you guys can make your stem whatever color you want. You can make it brown. I'm going to just keep it black. And again, I'm going to, well, actually, this one doesn't matter so much. You can leave it visible because there's nothing that I'm trying to trace that's behind it. So I'll just leave that visible for now. I'm going to make a new layer. And let's do the eyes next. So I call this layer eye. Now the nice thing with eyes is there are two of them. So really all I have to do is just draw one, and then I can just copy and paste and flip it. Okay. So I'm going to pen tool just one eye. Now to zoom in on the canvas, so I press Control, hold down Control plus. Control and Control minus to zoom out. Okay. H grabs the hand tool, and if I click and drag, it allows me to kind of move around my canvas. Okay. So I'm going to grab the pen tool, and I'm going to just kind of work my way around these little eye shapes. Good. Now, right away, I don't like the top here. It comes to too much of a point. I want it to be more smooth. So I can click on my white arrow tool here, click on the shape, and it will bring up all the anchor points that I have that make up this eye shape. Okay. Now, once I have it selected, I'm going to come over here. With all the tools, if you right click on them, it'll bring up like the sub menu for each tool. So I want to click on the one that looks like this and make sure I have the smooth tool selected. Now I can go over and I just draw on the outlines, all the anchor points that I have selected. I can kind of draw over them, and it'll automatically smooth out my work for me. Okay, it's a very powerful tool. So I really like this eye shape. It's pretty true to the original sketch. Okay, so to copy it, I can just press Control C or Edit Copy, and edit paste in place. We'll paste it exactly on top of the one that you copied. Okay. So I've made a copy. Now, as you can tell, the problem is I have to be able to flip it somehow, right? So it's the other direction. So I can go up to Object, Transform, Reflect. Okay. Now you can see you can reflect it horizontally or vertically. We obviously want to reflect it vertically. Make sure the preview thing is ticked so you can see. If I don't have this selected, then I can't see how it's going to look. So make sure you always have these preview boxes ticked if you want to see how it's going to look. Press OK. Okay. Now I'm going to do what's called grouping, and I've asked you guys to do this on your project, to group. So what I mean by grouping is when I move one eye, I want the other eye to move with it. I want to make sure they're kind of linked together. So click on one shape with your black arrow, click on one, hold Shift, click on the other, and then you can let go of Shift. So I have both of them selected. I'm going to right click and press on the group command. Now they are a group that move together. Okay. I can also apply, like if I apply a change to one of them, it'll change both of them. So to undo that. Good, so far I have, I'm gonna zoom out, Control minus, I have body, eyes, stem. Okay. So the next thing that I'll work on is my nose and then my mouth. So I'm going to quickly make a new layer, call it nose. This one just looks like a little triangle. Now, if I hold shift while I'm moving my mouse to the right, you see how it creates like a perfectly straight line? That's what I want, okay? Now, I'm going to go to the top here, good. And now I have a perfect little triangular nose. Easy, okay? Mouth real quick as well. So I'm just going to quickly block in the overall shape of the mouth. Again, I'm just clicking to drop the little anchor points on the corners. Okay, so here's where I run into a problem. Right now, I can't see the tracing underneath because I'm filling in the shape as I add anchor points. So over here, where I have the colors, I'm going to press on this little swap arrow button. So right now I'm adding a black stroke and there's no fill to my shape. So now I can kind of see where I'm working. Good, okay. So now I have a mouth shape. Now, if you wanted to, let's say, for example, you're looking at your work and you're like, oh, this corner looks a little like slanted or it doesn't quite match the other ones. You can grab your white selection arrow tool at the top here, click on an individual anchor point, and you can kind of drag it around to fix it however you please. Okay, so you can clean up your work a bit this way. Okay. So I want to move this one down a little bit just so that the mouth has the same width all the way down. This one looks a little narrow over here. So I'm going to open up the mouth a bit so it's a little bit wider. Okay, so that width matches this width. There, that's a little bit better. And I can switch it back so that it actually just gives it a fill instead of a stroke, and now you can see the whole mouth. So this is what we have so far. Now the shadow needs to go behind the body, right? Because the body is covering up part of the shadow. So we're going to make a new layer underneath the body. And for this one, I'm going to go over to my toolbox and right-click, find the circle tool, ellipse tool. Okay, click, drag, and I'm going to approximate the shape. There we go. The last thing I need to do is draw this little bolt, which kind of, there's two ways of doing it. You could pretend that it goes all the way behind the body. So let's actually do it that way. We're going to make a new layer called bolt. Okay. And I'm going to draw it in 2 steps. I'm going to draw the cap of the bolt. And then to make this part, I'm just going to draw a long rectangle and kind of move it into place. Now to rotate, you have to kind of keep your cursor away from those little corner boxes. So if you're too close, you can grab them and you can drag it bigger or smaller. But if you move it off a little bit, do you see how it turns to those swap arrows? That's good because that means you can rotate it. You see those that you can click and drag and rotate. So I'm going to make it a little bit smaller, just kind of rotate it into place. A little bit wider. Budget. Happy with that. Okay. So we've got all the basic shapes thrown down. Now the next step to really make this pumpkin look professional and just to kind of give it some pop is I personally like to outline my vector work. So actually real quick, guys, I'm going to smooth this pumpkin a bit. It looks a little bit more like wobbly in spots. So I'm going to grab my white arrow tool, click on the shape so I can see all the anchor points. Grab the smooth tool, and I'm going to draw over the spots that look like they need a little bit more curve to them. It makes a little bit of smoothing makes a big difference in terms of making it look clean and professional. You can always double click on the smooth tool and kind of, if you want it to be really smoothed out, have it all the way to the right. If you only want it to smooth a little bit, I'll kind of keep it to the middle. Okay, that's good. So I'm going to give this guy a stroke, a black outline, and I'm going to make it kind of thicker, almost like a sticker, like they have kind of thicker outlines. Sometimes when you add a stroke, you can kind of see again where your pathway isn't the most smooth. So right here in this corner, I'm going to grab my white arrow, click on the shape, and I'm going to grab my smooth tool and just kind of go over that corner a couple more times. All right, that's better. Okay. Look how smooth that pumpkin looks. Nice. The next step, I'm going to add those little black lines that make it look like a pumpkin. So I'm just going to hide kind of my layer so they're out of my way. And actually what I can do is on the body layer, I can just turn off the color for now, the fill, by clicking on it and then clicking this little cancel button. So it gets rid of my fill. I could have also gone up here and said no fill. So if it's orange, you just click on that and say no fill. This will allow me to see the lines underneath that I need to add. So I'm on top of the body layer, I'm going to add my pumpkin. And I'm just going to temporarily lock the body line. Anytime you lock a layer, it means you can't select it, move it, work with it. You'd have to unlock it in order to work with it. Let's lock it. And on the layer above, we're going to add these little lines. So you grab your pen tool. I'm going to zoom in so I can see a little bit better. Click at the start. Click at the end and hold down your click. And then drag until you're happy with how it looks. Okay. I actually break this up and do a click there and then go to the end. Yeah, that's better. That's much easier. Okay. Now, I haven't really worked. Typically, my home computer has a different workspace. Oh, right here. Okay, good. So grab your selection tool, click on the line you just made. And at the top here are all your options for that stroke. You want to make sure it goes from thick all the way down to thin. So in order to do that, we're going to click here and click on the one that looks like the triangle. Okay. As you can see, my line starts off thick and then it kind of disappears as it gets to the bottom here. Okay. Let's keep it at 4. You just want to make sure that it's not sticking out of your, like the outline of the overall pumpkin. You want to make sure it's not like above it like that, or it's going to look silly. So I'm just going to kind of quickly go along and pen tool my other pumpkin lines. So I'm going to click on the 4 and then make it back. Just kind of create this one. Grab 1, 2, 3, 4 stroke, change it to thick to thin. Same with the bottom here. One, 2, 3, 4. You can kind of fast forward this part if you are, see it's sticking below here, so I'm just going to grab my black arrow tool and I'm going to nudge it up one space so it's not sticking below the pumpkin. Okay. Now, technically, guys, again, instead of redrawing this, I could just copy the shape, Control C, edit, paste in place. I could drag it over, and then I want to flip it, right? Transform, reflect, boom. Now you can just okay. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit on my work because I want to make sure that I clean up this little anchor point here. And I'm going to drag it down. So let's see how that looks when we turn on all of our layers again. And we have to give our body a orange fill again, or else bolt will be seen. So coming together, right? So right now, this would be a really good submission. Like, this is awesome. Okay, we've used the pen tool, we've used the smooth tool, we've used the shape tool to make a shadow, we've grouped the eyes together. Okay, we've edited anchor points by, you know, kind of fixing them up as we go. We've named all of our layers, we've given it a background. The last thing they want to do to give this pumpkin just a little bit of razzle dazzle to it is I want to add a highlight and a little bit of a shadow just to make it look more 3D. Okay, so the highlight's easy. Right at the top, I'm going to make a new layer and just call it highlight. A little, like, you know, if you have an apple, it's the little shiny spot. Okay, so typically it's kind of circular looking. So you could actually, yeah, let's actually use the pencil tool for this. So this is a new tool. You could pen tool out a circular shape, or you could just grab the pencil tool and kind of draw a little oval or circle. Okay, and I'm going to smooth it out. Change my smooth settings to all the way. The reason why I didn't use an oval tool is I just didn't want it to be like a perfect oval. I wanted it to have a little bit of like an organic feel to it. And I'm going to rotate it. I don't want it to be an outline. I want it to be a solid fill, and I don't want black. I want white. So that's my little shine spot at the top of the pumpkin. Now I want to add like a darker orange to make a shadow. Okay. So this part can sometimes be a little confusing. So if you want to add a shadow, just pay attention here, okay? First thing we need to do is we need to click on our pumpkin body and then go to Window, Stroke. Okay. I want to make sure that the black outline that we're adding falls outside of the fill. So if you don't understand what that means, that's okay. Just go to a line stroke here and click on a line stroke to outside. Okay. And I'm actually going to make a copy of this layer. Okay. By edit, copy, edit, paste in place. Okay. So I dragged it off so you could see. We made a copy of it on top of it. Okay. Control Z to undo. So I want to get rid of the stroke. I just want the orange part. Okay. So again, right now I have just the orange part copied. Okay. I'm going to then change its color to the color that we want the shadow to be. So let's make it like a darker brownish orange. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another layer kind of on top of it all. And this is going to be the shape that we punch out. So my goal with this pen tool selection is to kind of draw the area that I still want to be the original orange. What's left behind is going to be the shadow. I'll change its color to something else so it's easy. So what I'm saying, guys, is this brown that's left behind is what I want the shadow to be, and this green's going to disappear. So I'm going to click on the green shape, hold shift, and I'm going to click on the brown shape underneath. I'm going to go over to my Pathfinder tools here, and if you can't find them on your screen, go to Window, Pathfinder, and they'll pop up. Okay. And I'm going to minus front, and I just punched out and left behind the shape here. Okay. Now, I don't really like that shape that much, so I'm going to Control Z a couple times. I'm just going to restart and draw another pen tool selection. That's okay, guys. That's part of art, is evaluating your work and be like, you know what, I don't love that. So personally speaking, I'm going to redraw my shadow a bit here. There, let's do something like that. Okay, hold shift, select the shape underneath it. Boom. Okay. Now, the last thing that we need to do is, one thing that's off right now is these little things need to be moved up, falling outside of the stroke. And I can zoom out, and there you have it. Okay, there's a pretty professional looking vector file. Okay. So make sure that you're saving your work as you go. I don't know why I should have started off by saving my file, but file, save on my computer. Guys, you know this by now, but save it to your OneDrive. Okay, and call it roll of vector underscore your first and last name. That's a good naming file. What's the project you worked on and what's your name? And I'll click save. There we go. Okay. Now you could be able, you know, if you wanted to show off to your parents and show them like the artwork that you made in class, I'm going to go hide my background layer so you can't see the trace underneath it. What you can do, guys, is you can click, drag, and select the whole thing. You can see how I'm moving it as a whole unit. Go up to the top, go File, Export, Export As. Okay. Now you'll want to export like a PNG file or a JPEG, something like that. I'm going to do PNG. Okay, and I'll save it to the desktop here. Export. Export. Okay. Okay. And here we have it. Here's my final pumpkin. Okay. Now it looks blurry because right now it's saved as a PNG and not as a vector file. Okay. But I could put this in, you know, I could make this my avatar on Microsoft Teams or something. Get my logo avatar. Okay. There you have it, guys. Let me know if you have any questions. Hopefully, I know this tutorial was long, but hopefully if you stuck with it, you were able to kind of hear all the instructions. Good luck.